Excuse me, ma'am. I just need to get my bag from the overhead. Olivia Harris, a black 16-year-old, spoke politely to the woman blocking the aisle. The plane had just landed at Chicago O'Hare. Everyone in first class was standing, reaching for their belongings. Victoria Ashford turned around slowly. Her eyes traveled from Olivia's worn sneakers to her oversized hoodie to her neat braids. Disgust spread across her pale face like a stain. "First class? You?" She let out a sharp, cruel laugh. "Where would a black girl like you get money for a seat up here? Did you steal someone's boarding pass? Or did you sneak up from economy when no one was looking?" A white man in the next row stood up. A police badge gleamed on his belt. "I'm a cop. I'll handle this." He grabbed Olivia's arm hard. "You don't belong here, kid. Out. Now." Passengers whispered. Phones appeared everywhere. Someone started live streaming. A businessman in an expensive suit smirked. "Finally, someone doing something about these people in our section." Nobody spoke up. Nobody defended her. The whole cabin watched in hungry silence. But none of them, not Victoria, not the cop, not a single smirking passenger, could imagine what was about to happen. In just a few minutes, every one of them would be begging for forgiveness. The Meridian Airlines flight from Atlanta had been smooth and uneventful. 3 hours of calm skies. Olivia had spent the time reading the autobiography of Malcolm X and listening to her favorite playlist. She hadn't bothered anyone. She hadn't even stood up to use the bathroom. Now, as passengers prepared to deplane, everything changed. Victoria Ashford leaned toward the man with the badge. Officer Derek Brandt, 45 years old. Off-duty, but never really off-duty in his own mind. "Officer," Victoria whispered, making sure her voice carried to nearby seats. "I hate to cause trouble, but I saw that black girl going through someone else's bag during the flight. I'm almost certain she stole something. You should check her." This was a complete lie. Victoria Ashford had spent the flight sipping champagne and watching movies. She hadn't seen Olivia do anything except read quietly. But she had noticed her. A black teenager in first class, in her space, breathing her air. That was enough. Brandt didn't ask for evidence. He didn't need any. A wealthy white woman had made an accusation. That was all the proof he required. He stepped into the aisle, blocking Olivia's path. "Hold it right there. I need to see your ticket and ID now." Olivia's eyes widened. "Excuse me? Why?" "I'm a police officer." He flashed his badge like a weapon. "Someone reported suspicious behavior. You're going to show me what's in that bag." "I didn't do anything wrong. I've been sitting here the whole flight. I didn't ask for your life story." Brandt's voice turned cold. "I asked for your bag. You can cooperate or this gets much worse for you. Your choice." Other passengers were growing impatient. They couldn't exit because Brandt was blocking the aisle with his interrogation. "Come on, what's the holdup?" someone called from behind. "Just let the cop handle it," another voice added. "We have connections to catch." Flight attendant Paula Simmons squeezed past, glancing at the boarding pass still clutched in Olivia's trembling hand. The name was clearly visible. Olivia Harris. Paula's breath caught. She knew that name. 8 days ago, every Meridian Airlines employee had received a company-wide email announcing the airline's new owner, Douglas Harris. This girl was his daughter. Paula opened her mouth to say something. One sentence could stop all of this. Then she looked at Brandt's badge, at Victoria's expensive jewelry, at the impatient white faces behind them. She closed her mouth and kept walking. "Smart lady," Brandt muttered. He turned back to Olivia with a predator's smile. "Now, you and me are going to take a walk. We'll sort this out at the gate." He grabbed her arm and pulled. What happened next would be replayed millions of times on screens around the world. But in that moment, Olivia Harris was completely and utterly alone. Brandt's fingers dug into her arm as he pulled her toward the front of the plane. Not hard enough to leave visible bruises, just hard enough to remind her who was in control, who had power, who had none. "We have a situation here," he announced to the cabin, voice loud and official. "Possible theft on the aircraft. Everyone remain calm and stay in your seats until I handle this." Heads turned like flowers toward the sun. Phones rose higher, recording everything. Victoria Ashford pressed a manicured hand to her chest, performing concern like an actress. "Oh my goodness, I hope she didn't take anything too valuable." I noticed her acting so strange the entire flight. Kept looking around, very suspicious. This was also a lie. Olivia had barely moved for 3 hours. But lies told by the right people have a way of becoming truth. A businessman in row 3 shook his head with theatrical disappointment. "This is exactly why they shouldn't let certain people in first class. These diversity programs just hand out upgrades to anyone now. No standards." Several passengers laughed. Not nervous laughter, comfortable laughter. The laughter of people who believed they were among friends. Olivia felt heat flooding her face and chest. Shame, hot and physical, spreading through her body like poison. She wanted to disappear. She wanted to scream. She wanted to ask why. Why her? Why now? Why any of this? She did none of those things. "I didn't steal anything." Her voice shook but didn't break. "I have a ticket. I paid for my seat. This seat. You can't do this." "I can do whatever I need to do to ensure passenger safety." Brandt yanked her forward another step. "And right now, you're a safety concern. So move." "What about all of them?" Olivia gestured at the white passengers watching the show. "Are you going to search their bags too? Or just mine?" "Don't get smart with me, girl. I'm asking a question. Why am I the only one you're—" "Because you're the one who doesn't belong here." He said it so simply, so certainly, like it was obvious, like everyone knew it. And from the faces around her, it seemed like everyone did. Then, unexpectedly, someone stepped forward. Tyler Bennett, senior flight attendant, 35 years old. He positioned himself between Brandt and the airplane door, blocking the exit. "Officer, I need to ask you to stop." Hope flickered in Olivia's chest like a candle flame in wind. Finally, someone was going to help. "I'm the lead attendant on this flight," Tyler continued, keeping his voice professional but firm. "Before we continue, I need to understand, what evidence do you have? A formal witness statement? Anything concrete?" Brandt's eyes narrowed dangerously. "I have a credible report from a passenger." "Which passenger specifically? And what exactly did they claim to see?" "That's not your concern, flight attendant." "With respect, it is my concern. She's a passenger on my aircraft. Meridian Airlines has protocols. If you're accusing her of a crime, there needs to be documentation, proper procedure, something more than an unverified claim." "Are you obstructing me?" "I'm asking questions. Questions I'm supposed to ask." Brandt stepped closer to Tyler, close enough that Tyler could smell coffee on his breath. "What's your name?" "Tyler Bennett." "Tyler Bennett." Brandt repeated it slowly, like he was memorizing it for a report. "You want to know what happens to airline employees who obstruct police investigations? I can call TSA right now. Make this a federal matter. They'll pull you into a room for questioning. Your supervisors will get a call. How do you think that conversation goes? How do you think your career looks after that?" Tyler's face went pale. The cabin was silent. Everyone watching. Everyone waiting. 52 seconds. That's how long Tyler Bennett stood there. 52 seconds of internal war. 52 seconds of calculating the cost of courage. Then his shoulders dropped. "I'll let you handle it." He stepped aside without looking at Olivia. He couldn't look at her. If he looked at her, he'd have to see what his cowardice was doing. The hope in Olivia's chest didn't just flicker out. It was extinguished, drowned. The one person who tried to help her had surrendered in less than a minute. Brandt smiled with pure satisfaction. "Smart choice, Tyler. Very smart. He turned back to Olivia, grip tightening on her arm. Now, let's go, and don't make me ask again. He marched her through the first-class cabin like a prisoner being led to sentencing, past every watching face, past every recording phone, past every person who had chosen their comfort over her dignity. An elderly white woman in seat 2A, Edna Holloway, 62, retired teacher, watched with troubled eyes. Her arthritic hands gripped her armrests so hard her knuckles turned white. Her mouth opened once, twice, 3 times. No words came out. She had taught children for 35 years. She had always told them to stand up for what was right, to be brave, to speak out against injustice. Now, when it mattered, she sat frozen. A teenage girl across the aisle, Emma Sullivan, 16, same age as Olivia, stared at the scene with growing horror. Unlike the adults around her, she felt the wrongness of it like a physical blow to her stomach. Something was very, very wrong here, and nobody was doing anything. Emma pulled out her phone, but instead of just recording for entertainment or to show her friends later, she opened TikTok. If the adults wouldn't act, maybe the internet would. She started filming, keeping her phone low so Brant wouldn't notice. Her caption was already forming in her mind. Brant pushed Olivia through the airplane door and into the jet bridge. The long, tunnel-like corridor stretched ahead, fluorescent lights buzzing overhead. Passengers who had already deplaned stood along the sides, watching. What did she do? I heard she stole something from first class. These kids today. No home training. No respect. Should have stayed in economy where she belongs. The whispers followed Olivia like wasps. Each one stung. Each one drew blood. She kept her head down. Tears burned behind her eyes, building pressure, but she refused to let them fall. She would not cry in front of these people. She would not give them that satisfaction. At the end of the jet bridge, where it opened into the gate area, Brant stopped. He spun Olivia around to face him, pressing her back against the wall. Here's how this works. His voice was low now, almost intimate, just between them. You're going to sit at that gate and wait while I verify some things. If you cooperate quietly, maybe this ends without going on your permanent record. Maybe you still get to fly someday. He leaned closer. But if you cause any trouble, if you talk back, if you try to leave, if you make a scene, I will make sure your name is on every no-fly list I can access. You will never fly this airline again. Any airline. Understand me? Olivia met his eyes. Something in her steadied. You should hope my father doesn't see this. Brant actually laughed. A real laugh, full of genuine amusement. Your father? That's adorable. He shook his head. Sweetheart, I don't care if your daddy is the President of the United States. I don't care if he's a senator or a CEO or Jesus Christ himself. Right here, right now, I have the badge. I have the authority. I have the power. He poked her shoulder with one finger. And you? You're just a black girl who got caught somewhere she shouldn't be. You have nothing. He pushed her forward into the gate area. Gate B12, Chicago O'Hare International Airport, one of the busiest airports in the world. Thousands of people passing through every hour. And Olivia Harris stood in the middle of it all like an exhibit, like a criminal on display, like something to be stared at and whispered about and photographed. Passengers from other flights walked by, slowing down to look. Some whispered to their companions. One man actually took out his phone, snapped a photo of Olivia, and kept walking without breaking stride. A gate agent named Monica approached, expression uncertain. Brant immediately intercepted her, badge out, voice official. Police matter. This individual is being held for questioning regarding a theft on the inbound flight. I need her to stay here until I complete my investigation. Monica looked at Olivia, looked at Brant, looked at the badge. Of course, officer. Whatever you need. Then she looked at Olivia again, and her expression shifted. hardened. She had believed Brandt without question. Why would a cop lie? "Young lady, is there someone we should call for you? A parent? A guardian?" She paused. "Social services?" "My father is here," Olivia said. "At this airport. He's waiting for me in arrivals." Monica and Brandt exchanged a look. The kind of look that said, "Sure he is." "Just sit down and wait," Brandt ordered. "Don't move from that spot. Don't talk to anyone. Don't use your phone unless it's to call a lawyer. Actually, don't even do that without asking me first." Olivia sat. The chair was cold plastic, hard and uncomfortable. Around her, thousands of travelers moved through the terminal, living their normal lives, catching their normal flights, having their normal days. None of them stopped to ask if she was okay. A few stared openly. Most pretended not to see her, which somehow felt worse. They saw. They just didn't care. She was invisible and hypervisible at the same time. A spectacle and a ghost. Minutes crawled by, each one stretched into what felt like an hour. Victoria Ashford emerged from the jet bridge looking refreshed and satisfied. She had fixed her lipstick. Her Chanel jacket was immaculate. She walked past Olivia, close enough to make eye contact. She smiled, a small, private smile of triumph, and then continued toward baggage claim. Her work here was done. She had put a black girl in her place. Order had been restored. Meanwhile, at a coffee shop 50 feet away, Tyler Bennett sat with his head in his hands. He had bought a drink he couldn't taste and wouldn't finish. His hands were shaking. 52 seconds. He had given up in 52 seconds. The look on Olivia's face when he stepped aside. He would remember it forever. The hope dying. The resignation setting in. The loneliness. He had done that. Him. By choosing his career over a child. But it was too late now. Wasn't it? What could he possibly do? Back at the gate, Emma Sullivan's TikTok video was detonating across the internet. "Just watched a cop drag a black girl off first class for existing. She didn't do anything wrong. This is Chicago O'Hare right now." The algorithm caught fire. The shares multiplied. The comments exploded. 10 minutes, 200,000 views. 30 minutes, 800,000 views. 1 hour, 2.2 million views. The world was watching. The world was angry. But at gate B12, Olivia knew none of this. She only knew she was alone. 15 minutes. That was all Olivia had to wait. But when you're 16 years old and publicly humiliated and accused of a crime you didn't commit, 15 minutes feels like 15 years. Brandt stood nearby, arms crossed, performing authority for anyone who cared to watch. He made phone calls, gesturing importantly. He chatted with airport security officers who wandered over, building his version of events. "Just a routine situation. Suspicious passenger. You know how it is. Better safe than sorry. Can't be too careful these days." The security officers nodded along. They had no reason to question a fellow badge, especially not about a black teenager. Passengers from Olivia's flight continued to stream past. Some stared openly, pointing and whispering. Others made a show of not looking, which was somehow worse. Olivia heard fragments of their conversations, each one a small knife. "That's the girl from the plane. I heard she had stuff that wasn't hers." "First class, can you believe it? Where did she even get the money?" "Young people today, especially those ones, you can't trust them. Probably some kind of scam. They're always running scams." The whispers built and built, pressing down on her like a physical weight. Each word added another stone to the pile crushing her chest. Then a familiar face appeared. Edna Holloway, the elderly woman from first class, walked toward her slowly. She held a bottle of water in one hand, a small bag of pretzels in the other. "Here, dear." She held out the offerings with trembling hands. "You must be thirsty and hungry. It's been such an ordeal." Olivia looked up, surprised by the kindness. "Thank you, ma'am." Edna sat down in the chair next to her. For a moment, just one precious moment, Olivia felt slightly less alone. "What's happening to you isn't right," Edna said quietly, so Brant couldn't hear. "I know it isn't. Any fool with eyes can see you didn't do anything wrong." Olivia nodded, not trusting herself to speak without crying. "I should say something. I should march over there and tell that officer he's making a terrible mistake. I should demand he let you go." Hope stirred in Olivia's chest again. Maybe this woman would help. Maybe this time. But then Brant glanced over. His eyes met Edna's, cold, warning, daring her to interfere. Edna's courage crumbled like wet paper. "I'm sorry," she whispered, voice breaking. "I'm so terribly sorry. I'm not brave enough. I want to be, but I'm not. Forgive me." She stood up quickly and walked away, almost running, like she was fleeing a crime scene. In a way, she was. Olivia understood. She had seen it her whole life. Fear of authority, fear of confrontation, fear of getting involved, fear of what might happen if you stand up for someone who looks different from the crowd. Most people chose comfort over courage, safety over justice. That was just how the world worked. But understanding didn't make it hurt less. Far from Gate B12, in the digital world, Emma Sullivan's video was becoming a phenomenon. 3.8 million views and climbing fast. The comments section had transformed into a battlefield. This is America in 2024. A black girl can't even sit in first class without being treated like a criminal. Find out who this cop is. He needs to be exposed. What airline is this? We need to boycott them immediately. The woman who reported her. Someone identify her. She started this. This poor girl. Someone find her family and help her. News desks at CNN, MSNBC, and Fox were all making calls. Producers were scrambling to verify the story. Reporters were booking flights to Chicago. A hashtag emerged. #Justice for Olivia. But at Gate B12 in the real world, Olivia remained trapped and unaware. Gerald Crawford, the senior flight attendant who had taken over from Tyler, approached Brant with his tablet. "I've completed the incident report, officer." "Good. What did you write?" Gerald read from the screen. Passenger Olivia Harris displayed uncooperative behavior when questioned by law enforcement. Multiple witnesses reported suspicious activity during the flight. Officer Derek Brant of the Chicago Police Department handled the situation in accordance with standard security protocols. Every word was either false or misleading. Gerald hadn't spoken to Olivia, hadn't asked for her account, hadn't done anything except write what Brant wanted him to write. "Perfect," Brant said. "Send that through official channels." "Already done, sir." The narrative was being created and documented without Olivia's voice. The official story would say she was suspicious, uncooperative, problematic. The official story would justify everything that happened to her. This is how systems protected their own. This is how power covered its tracks. Finally, Brant checked his watch and walked back over to Olivia. 10 minutes left," he announced. "If nobody shows up to claim you by then, I'm turning this whole mess over to airport security. They'll take it from there. Maybe they'll call the police. Maybe they'll hold you overnight. Depends on their mood, I guess." Olivia's hands were steady now. The shaking had stopped. Something else had taken over. Something cold and determined. She pulled out her phone and dialed her father. "Dad?" Her voice was calmer than she expected. "I landed. But there's a problem. A cop pulled me off the plane. He's holding me at Gate B12. He says I stole something. I didn't do anything wrong, Dad. I promise. I didn't." Douglas Harris's voice came through the speaker, steady as bedrock. "I know you didn't, baby. I know. Now tell me exactly where you are." "Gate B12, Concourse B. Don't say another word to anyone. Not to the cop, Not to airline staff, not to anyone. I'm in the arrivals area right now. I'll be there in 15 minutes. Olivia felt something loosen in her chest. Okay, Dad. And Olivia? Yes? I'm not coming alone. The line went dead. Brant had been watching her call with an amused smirk. Calling Daddy to rescue you? That's sweet, really touching. He crouched down to her eye level, invading her space. But let me explain something to you, little girl. I don't care who your father is. I don't care if he's rich, poor, famous, or nobody. I don't care if he's a lawyer or a doctor or the governor of Illinois. He tapped his badge. This is the only thing that matters right now. This badge. My authority. Here in this airport today, I have all the power. And you? He stood up, looking down at her. You have nothing except a phone call and a prayer. Olivia met his gaze without flinching. You should remember you said that. Brant laughed and walked away. He had no idea that the countdown wasn't for Olivia. It was for him. At that same moment, Douglas Harris was moving through O'Hare like a force of nature. He had been waiting in arrivals, excited to see his daughter, planning to take her to dinner at her favorite restaurant to celebrate. 8 days ago, he had completed the acquisition of Meridian Airlines. It was the culmination of decades of work. A poor kid from the south side of Chicago now owned a major airline. And someone had just dragged his daughter off one of his planes like a criminal. Douglas didn't get angry often. He had built his empire by staying calm when others panicked, by thinking clearly when others raged. But his daughter was sitting alone at a gate, accused of theft, held by a cop who saw her skin color and assumed the worst. He was about to get very, very angry. His phone rang. Diane Whitmore, his COO. Douglas, I'm seeing something on social media. A video from one of our flights. I know. It's Olivia. I'm heading to gate B12 now. Meet me there. Meet me. Bring Raymond, and bring whatever documentation we need to end this. I'm on my way. Douglas, this video has millions of views. It's everywhere. Good. Then there will be plenty of witnesses when I handle it. He hung up and kept walking. The clock was ticking. Minute 13. 3 people appeared at the far end of Concourse B, walking with the kind of purpose that made crowds part unconsciously. Douglas Harris. 52 years old, gray suit, no tie, face composed, eyes sharp enough to cut glass. Diane Whitmore. 55. Navy blazer, tablet in hand. The chief operating officer of a multi-billion-dollar airline, and she looked every inch of it. Raymond Cole, 42, head of communications. Phone in one hand, tablet in the other, already documenting everything. They moved through the terminal like a wedge formation. Airport staff recognized Diane and stepped aside. Security guards who had been chatting with Brant suddenly looked uncertain. Power recognizes power. And it had just arrived. Brant noticed the approaching trio. He didn't know who they were, but something in his gut tightened. These weren't ordinary travelers. These were people who mattered. He straightened his posture, adjusted his badge, prepared to assert his authority. Douglas Harris didn't even glance at him. He walked directly to Olivia, knelt beside her chair, and took her hands in his. Hey, baby. His voice was soft. Just for her. You okay? Olivia's carefully maintained composure finally cracked. Tears spilled down her cheeks, not from fear, but from relief. I'm okay now, Dad. I'm okay now. Douglas hugged her, brief but fierce. The hug of a father who would burn down the world for his child if necessary. Then he stood, turned, and for the first time, looked directly at Derek Brant. Brant stepped forward, trying to reclaim control of the situation. Sir, are you this girl's guardian? I'm going to need to see some identification before I can... I'm her father. Okay. Well, there's been a report of suspicious activity on the aircraft, and I've been conducting an investigation. What's your name? Brant blinked, He wasn't used to being interrupted. "Officer Derek Brandt, Chicago PD. And you are?" "We'll get to that." Diane Whitmore stepped forward, her voice carrying the weight of boardrooms and courtrooms. "Officer Brandt, my name is Diane Whitmore. I'm the Chief Operating Officer of Meridian Airlines." Brandt's expression flickered. "The airline? Why would someone from the airline?" Diane continued as if he hadn't spoken. "This gentleman is Douglas Harris." She paused for effect. "As of 8 days ago, Mr. Harris is the owner of Meridian Airlines. He purchased the company in its entirety." Another pause. "And the young woman you dragged off his aircraft, accused without evidence, and detained at this gate for the past hour? That's his daughter, Olivia Harris." The words hung in the air like a guillotine blade. The color drained from Brandt's face so fast it was almost comical. His mouth opened, closed, opened again. No sound came out. Behind him, the crowd that had gathered, passengers, airport staff, people with phones recording everything, went silent. Then the whispers exploded. "Her dad owns the airline? Oh my God! That cop is finished! This is the best thing I've ever seen! Someone please tell me they're getting this." Brandt finally found his voice. It came out strangled. I was responding to a credible report. A passenger told me." "Which passenger?" Victoria Ashford chose this moment to reappear. She had been walking toward baggage claim when she noticed the commotion. Curiosity brought her back. Arrogance kept her from running. "Mr. Harris?" She walked forward with practiced confidence. "I'm Victoria Ashford, Ashford Holdings. Perhaps you've heard of us?" Douglas turned to look at her. His expression didn't change. "My family has been shareholders in this airline for 15 years. We currently own 12%. She smiled, as if this fact gave her armor. "I was the one who reported your daughter, and I stand by what I saw. Suspicious behavior should always be reported, regardless of who the suspect's parents might be." Douglas studied her for a long moment. "You stand by your statement?" "Absolutely." "You're prepared to repeat it formally, under oath if necessary, in a legal proceeding?" Victoria lifted her chin. "I have nothing to hide. My family doesn't intimidate easily, Mr. Harris. We were here long before you bought your way in." "I see." Douglas turned to Raymond Cole. "Show her." Raymond stepped forward with his tablet, turning the screen so Victoria could see it clearly. Emma Sullivan's TikTok video. Now at 4.6 million views and climbing every second. "This video has been viewed by millions of people, Ms. Ashford. It shows the entire boarding process and most of the flight." Raymond tapped the screen, pulling up timestamp data. "According to this footage, you boarded the aircraft in Atlanta at 2:58 p.m. Ms. Harris was already seated at 2:41 p.m., 17 minutes before you even entered the plane. She did not move from her seat for the duration of the flight. Not once." He looked directly at Victoria. "The video clearly shows Ms. Harris sitting quietly, reading a book. She doesn't speak to anyone. She doesn't touch anyone else's belongings. She doesn't leave her seat until the plane lands." He tilted his head. "So I'm very curious, Ms. Ashford. When exactly did you see her going through someone's bag? What time was that? Because according to 4 million witnesses and counting, it never happened." Victoria's confidence evaporated like morning dew. There must be some mistake. Perhaps I misremembered the timing. But I'm certain I saw something suspicious." Douglas cut her off. His voice was still calm. That was what made it terrifying. "You didn't misremember anything, Ms. Ashford. You lied." He stepped toward her. Not threatening, just present. "You lied because you saw a black teenage girl sitting in first class and you decided she didn't belong there. You lied because your prejudice told you that someone who looks like my daughter must be a criminal. You lied because you thought your money and your family name meant you could destroy a 16-year-old's day. Maybe her reputation, maybe her future, with no consequences." Victoria's mouth moved, but nothing came out. You didn't make a mistake. You made a choice. And now you'll face the consequences of that choice. Victoria tried one last defense. My father will hear about this. Harrison Ashford doesn't take kindly to threats. Our lawyers... Your father will hear about it directly from me, Douglas said, at tomorrow's board meeting, where I'll be proposing a resolution. What resolution? Any shareholder who deliberately makes false accusations resulting in harm to passengers or damage to the airline's reputation will be required to divest their holdings, completely, every share. You can't force my family to sell. We have rights. The board will vote. I control 51% of voting shares. Would you like me to explain how majority voting works, Ms. Ashford? Or did your expensive education cover that? Victoria looked around desperately, searching for an ally, for someone to take her side, for the social order to reassert itself. But the same passengers who had laughed at Olivia's humiliation were now watching Victoria's downfall with equal entertainment. The same phones that had recorded Olivia's shame were now capturing Victoria's disgrace. That's the thing about crowds. They love watching someone fall. They don't particularly care who. Victoria turned and pushed through the crowd, practically running for the exit. But there was nowhere to escape. Her name was already attached to the viral video. Her face was being shared across the internet. Her reputation was being destroyed in real time. Douglas watched her flee, then turned his full attention back to Brandt. The cop looked smaller somehow, diminished. His badge no longer seemed like a weapon. Officer Brandt, let me ask you 3 questions. Brandt swallowed hard. 1. You searched my daughter's bag. What did you find? What evidence of theft did you discover? Nothing. The answer was nothing. 2. In first class today, 12 passengers, I believe. How many others did you question? How many white businessmen did you ask for identification? How many white women did you demand to search? None. The answer was none. 3. My daughter told you she hadn't done anything wrong. She told you she had a ticket. She told you this was her seat. Did you stop, for even 1 second, to consider that she might be telling the truth? Or did you decide she was guilty the moment you saw her face? Brandt's voice came out hoarse. I was doing my job, responding to a report. Your job is to protect citizens, not to humiliate them. Not to drag 16-year-old girls through airplanes like criminals, not to assume guilt based on the color of someone's skin. Douglas stepped back. Diane. Handle it. Diane Whitmore stepped forward with the precision of someone who had handled crises before, though never quite like this one. Officer Derek Brandt. Her voice carried across the gate area, ensuring everyone present would hear and remember. Effective immediately, you are permanently banned from all Meridian Airlines flights, as a passenger, as an employee, as a contractor, or in any other capacity. This ban is permanent and non-negotiable. Brandt opened his mouth to protest. Additionally, Diane continued, not giving him the chance, Meridian Airlines will be filing a formal complaint with the Chicago Police Department's Internal Affairs Division. We will provide them with all available evidence, including the viral video that now has over 5 million views. She glanced at her tablet. We're also aware that you have 4 prior complaints in your file regarding racial profiling, all previously dismissed due to lack of evidence. This time, Officer Brandt, there are millions of witnesses. I suspect the outcome will be different. Brandt's face went from white to red. This is ridiculous. I'm a police officer. I have 20 years on the force. I was just trying to protect... Protect who? Olivia's voice cut through his protest. Everyone turned to look at her. She was standing now, no longer the scared girl hunched in a plastic chair. Something had changed in her. Something had solidified. You weren't protecting anyone, she said, walking toward Brandt. You saw a black girl in first class, and you decided I didn't belong. You didn't need evidence. You didn't need proof. You just needed an excuse. She stopped in front of him. 5 feet 4 inches of teenage girl, facing down a man twice her age with a badge and a gun. You said my father being important shouldn't matter. That was the first true thing you said all day. Her voice grew stronger. It shouldn't matter. I shouldn't need a rich dad to be treated like a human being. I shouldn't need someone powerful to stand up for me just so I can sit in a seat I paid for. She took another step closer. But since you didn't give me that basic respect, since you decided my skin was enough to make me guilty, now you get to face consequences from someone who actually has the power to create them. She paused. And I really hope, that the next black girl you encounter doesn't need a billionaire father to make you treat her with basic human dignity. The silence that followed was total. Then someone in the crowd started clapping, slowly at first, then faster. More people joined in. The applause spread through the gate area like a wave. Edna Holloway pushed through the crowd, tears streaming down her wrinkled face. I should have said something on the plane. I should have stood up. I was afraid and I stayed quiet and I'm so ashamed. Please forgive me, please. Olivia looked at the elderly woman's genuine distress. You tried to help me at the gate, the water, sitting with me. That meant something. It wasn't enough. No. But it was more than most people did. Emma Sullivan approached next, phone still in hand. The video I posted, did it help at all? I didn't know what else to do. I'm only 16, I couldn't fight the cop or anything, but I thought maybe if people saw... Olivia smiled for the first time in hours. You did more than enough. You made sure there were witnesses. You made sure people couldn't pretend this didn't happen. That matters. That really matters. Tyler Bennett finally emerged from wherever he'd been hiding. He walked toward the Harris family like a man approaching his own execution. Mr. Harris, Olivia, I owe you both an apology. Douglas turned to face him. I tried to help on the plane. I did try. Tyler's voice cracked. But when he threatened me, my job, my career, I backed down. I gave up after 52 seconds. I counted. I've been counting ever since. Douglas studied him. You're right. You gave up. I know, and I'll have to live with that. Olivia spoke up. Dad, Douglas looked at his daughter. He was the only one who said anything at all. Everyone else just watched. The other flight attendants walked by. The passengers laughed. He was the only person on that entire plane who even tried to help me. She looked at Tyler. 52 seconds isn't enough. You're right about that. But it's infinitely more than 0. And 0 is what everyone else gave me. Douglas considered this. Then he nodded slowly. 52 seconds. We'll talk about what needs to happen to turn 52 seconds into 52 minutes, or however long it takes until the problem is solved. Tyler's eyes glistened. Thank you. I won't waste the chance. Now Raymond Cole called Gerald Crawford forward, the senior flight attendant who had written the false report. Mr. Crawford, your incident report described Ms. Harris as uncooperative and stated she displayed suspicious behavior. Did you actually speak to her before writing those words? Gerald couldn't meet anyone's eyes. Officer Brandt told me what happened. So you wrote an official document, something that goes into permanent records that could affect someone's ability to travel, that could be used in legal proceedings, based entirely on what one person told you? Without any verification? Without speaking to the accused? Yes. You'll receive notification about your employment status within 48 hours. Gerald's shoulders slumped in defeat. Finally, Diane Whitmore addressed the gathered crowd, knowing the cameras were still rolling, knowing millions would eventually see this moment. On behalf of Meridian Airlines, I want to be absolutely clear about what happened today, and what happens next. She looked at Olivia. Ms. Harris, you will receive a formal written apology within 24 hours. But words aren't enough. We are committing to a complete review of our policies, our training programs, and our intervention procedures. No passenger should ever experience what you experienced. She addressed the wider crowd. We will partner with civil rights organizations to develop comprehensive bystander intervention training. We will create clear protocols for passengers and crew to report abuse of authority. And we will make absolutely certain that on Meridian Airlines, every single passenger is treated with dignity and respect, regardless of what they look like, regardless of where they sit. The applause was thunderous. Brandt stood alone in the middle of it all. No one approached him. No one defended him. His badge felt heavy and meaningless against his chest. He turned and walked away through the crowd, head down, steps slow. He would fly home on a different airline. He would face an investigation. He would sit through mandatory training sessions and answer uncomfortable questions. Whether he would actually change remained to be seen. But for the first time in 20 years, Derek Brandt wasn't certain he was right. And sometimes, that uncertainty is where change begins. The story exploded. Within 24 hours, Emma Sullivan's video had been viewed 43 million times. News networks ran the footage continuously. #Justice. For Olivia trended worldwide for 3 consecutive days. Meridian Airlines released their formal apology, along with a detailed 10-point plan for policy reform. Douglas Harris made sure it wasn't just PR language, real changes, real accountability, real consequences. 2 weeks later, the dominoes began falling. Derek Brandt was placed on administrative leave immediately after the video went viral. Internal Affairs opened a formal investigation. When they pulled his complete file, they found not 4 but 6 previous complaints of racial profiling, 2 more than had been publicly known. All had been dismissed for insufficient evidence. This time there was plenty of evidence. The investigation concluded after 1 month. The findings were damning. Brandt received a 6-month suspension without pay. He was required to complete 200 hours of mandatory training in bias recognition, cultural sensitivity, and constitutional rights. He was permanently removed from patrol duty and reassigned to desk work. No badge, no gun, no authority over citizens. The final warning was clear. 1 more complaint, from anyone, for anything, and he would be terminated immediately. For a man who had built his identity around being a cop, around having power, around being right, it was devastating. During one of his mandatory training sessions, Brandt found himself seated next to an older black man, a retired officer named William Patterson, who now facilitated the program. "You think you have a race problem?" Patterson asked during a break. Brandt's instinct was to say no, to defend himself, to explain, but something made him pause. "I don't know anymore," he admitted finally. Patterson nodded slowly. "That's the first honest thing you've said. Let me ask you something. I wore that uniform for 30 years. Every single day I had to prove I deserved it. To my colleagues, to supervisors, to the public, every single day." He leaned forward. "Did you ever have to do that? Prove you belonged?" Brandt didn't answer, but for the first time in his life, he listened. Victoria Ashford's fall was swifter and more complete. The board vote went exactly as Douglas predicted, 51% to 49%. Ashford Holdings was required to divest their entire stake within 90 days. The stock sale would be at market value, but the humiliation was priceless. Her father, Harrison Ashford, released a public statement that made headlines. "The actions of Victoria Ashford were reprehensible and do not represent the values of our family or our company. We support the board's decision and offer our sincere apologies to Ms. Olivia Harris and her family." Victoria's social circle evaporated overnight. The country clubs found scheduling conflicts. The charity boards accepted her resignation. The exclusive parties no longer had room on the guest list. She learned what Olivia had learned at Gate B12. When the crowd turns against you, you discover how alone you really are. Tyler Bennett chose a different path. He completed his bystander intervention training, then asked to become a trainer himself. His internal memo went viral within the company. 52 seconds I'll never forget, and why it wasn't enough. In it, he wrote about the moment he backed down, the fear, the rationalization, the shame that followed. I told myself I tried, he wrote. But trying isn't enough if you stop before it matters. Next time, and there will be a next time. There's always a next time. I won't count seconds. I'll count until the problem is solved. Gerald Crawford was terminated for filing a false report. 3 months later, he was still looking for work. The viral video followed him everywhere. No airline would touch him. Paula Simmons wasn't fired, but she was transferred to a position with no passenger contact. In her disciplinary hearing, she admitted the truth that haunted her. I recognized the name on her boarding pass. I knew she was Mr. Harris's daughter. I could have stopped everything with one sentence. I chose not to. She now processed paperwork in a back office, living with the weight of her silence. As for Olivia Harris, she turned down almost every media request. She had no interest in becoming famous for being victimized, but she said yes to schools. She spoke to students across the country about what happened, about racial profiling, about bystander responsibility, about the power of recording injustice when you witness it. At a high school in Atlanta, a student asked the question everyone wanted to know. Do you forgive Officer Brandt? Olivia's answer became the most shared quote from her story. Forgiveness isn't my job. Change is his job. I'm just doing my job, making sure this doesn't happen to the next person. Or if it does, making sure someone's brave enough to record it. And someone's brave enough to stand up for more than 52 seconds. 3 months later, a Meridian Airlines flight, economy class. A young black boy, maybe 10 years old, sat alone by the window reading a Spider-Man comic. His parents were seated 1 row behind him. A middle-aged white passenger across the aisle glanced at the boy. His brow furrowed. He shifted in his seat. His mouth opened. Hey, buddy. Tyler Bennett appeared in the aisle, warm smile in place. You doing okay? Need anything? Water? Juice? Extra pillow for the flight? The boy looked up and grinned. Can I get some orange juice? Absolutely. Coming right up. Tyler turned to the white passenger, still smiling but with something firm in his eyes. Sir, is there something I can help you with? The man looked away quickly. No, nothing. Excellent. Let me know if that changes. Tyler walked toward the galley. Sunlight caught his name tag, Tyler Bennett. Beneath it, a new title, Bystander Response Trainer. The boy got his orange juice. The flight continued without incident. Just another ordinary day. But that's how change happens. Not in one dramatic moment, but in 1,000 small ones. In someone choosing to speak when staying silent would be easier. In someone asking, "Can I help you?" before a situation escalates. In someone deciding that 52 seconds will become however long it takes. Olivia Harris didn't change the world that day at O'Hare, but she changed one airline, one set of policies, one cop who thought he was always right, one flight attendant who learned that trying isn't enough. Sometimes, that's exactly where change begins, with one person who refuses to look away.